Yo, welcome, all my beautiful people. How are you doing? Welcome to the Alternate Point of View. My name is Tracy Lee, and we are still diving into the Samantha Wall trial. I have been away. I've been doing some live streams, and I have been looking at some other stuff on Law and Crime, Court TV, YouTube, of course. So we are diving back in to the Samantha Wall trial and looking at each individual testimony. We are not done. We are still looking at this trial, still diving into each testimony. And today we are going to look at Jeffrey Herbstman. We're going to look at the ex-boyfriend who did indeed confess to the deletion of Samantha Wall. Now, who is Jeffrey Herbstman? Jeffrey Herbstman was the boyfriend of Samantha Wall. They dated for about a year. Let me brush you up on this case. First of all, I want to say hello, yoseo, welcome to everyone who is new to this channel, everyone who's been coming to this channel. Welcome back. I appreciate you all so much. This is the Samantha Wall Red Rum that happened in October 21st, 2023, 2 weeks after the Hamas group invaded Israel. Samantha Wall was the president of the Isaac Agree Downtown Synagogue in Detroit, Michigan. It is the last freestanding synagogue in Detroit. Samantha Wall was a well-loved Detroiter. She was the president of the synagogue. She was very involved in the politics of Michigan. She helped the Dana Nessel campaign, the Elise Slotnick campaign, the Chain campaign. She was very involved with the Muslim Jewish coalition. She tried to keep and help maintain the rebuild, basically, of Detroit as a whole, help rebuild the Jewish community there. So she was very well known. And so when this incident occurred, it was quite shocking to the community, not just the Jewish community, but just everyone in Detroit as a whole, because she was so well known. And when this incident occurred, it was so brutal and just so shocking, obviously. And the amount of evidence at the scene was so overwhelming that, even the Detroit Police Department brought in extra help from the FBI and state police, because obviously she was so well known, and due to the current climate at the time and still ongoing, as we can see today, it was a concern that it could be anti-Semitic, that it could be, to do with the Hamas-Israel situation. I mean, they just didn't know. And Samantha was involved in politics, and so they just weren't sure where this case was going to lead them. And a couple of weeks after this situation happened, Jeffrey Herbstman, her ex-boyfriend, goes on a work trip to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and he calls 911 on his own, and he confesses, essentially, kind of, but not, but does, to doing harm to Samantha. He says, essentially, on the 911, and when the police arrive to the scene, that he thinks he did this to her, but he doesn't remember anything. Yet he does remember how to spell his name. He knows her phone number. He knows his number. He knows his date of birth. He knows the address. He knows all of this information, but he thinks he's having a severe panic attack. And that explains why he's confessing. He thinks he's made his medicine is interacting with something else that he's taking, and therefore it's making him confess to this terrible, terrible crime. So Jeffrey Herbstman gets to testify on the stand against Michael Jackson Bolanos, who is actually the one being charged with this horrific crime. Now, why is this important? Why is Jeffrey Herbstman testifying on the stand after he confessed to actually doing this to Samantha? And why is Michael Jackson Bolanos the defendant? And how is it that Jeffrey Herbstman is not the defendant? So strange, right? We got questions. And I don't know if we're ever going to get the actual answers. Even though Michael can still supposedly not be charged again for this crime, and we don't have any official answers as to what effectively happened to Samantha. We just know that there were 8 wounds to Samantha's neck and head area. That is what caused her demise. And we have Jeffrey Herbstman, who confessed. We have Michael Jackson Bolanos, who was in the area, but we don't have any physical evidence that connects Jeffrey Herbstman to the area, but we have cell phone data that connects Michael Jackson Bolanos to the area. We have nothing physical that connects Jeffrey Herbstman to the area. We just have his confession. We don't have a confession for Michael Jackson Bolanos, but we have cell phone data that puts him in the area. So let's look at Jeffrey Herbstman testimony. And I also want to caveat this with the fact that Jeffrey Herbstman was given use immunity. Use immunity is important because most people do not get use immunity. And I will tell you the difference between use immunity and the other immunity, which is, gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Sorry. Immunity, full immunity. Full immunity is where you can't be charged with anything at all. Ever. Use immunity just means that you cannot be charged with whatever he says on the stand. He cannot be used against him. Okay. Whatever comes out of his mouth on the stand cannot be used against him in a court of law. But if evidence comes out, that can be used against him. So what the prosecution is basically trying to say is, if we find evidence, physical evidence, we find the actual pen that did it, and it has your prints on it, Mr. Herbstman, then yes, you can be charged. But if you say anything on the stand, we can't use that against you. So basically, he can still be charged. So he took that risk by getting on the stand. So why would they give him use immunity? Use immunity is usually saved for someone, let's say Jeff and Michael knew each other and planned this together. And let's say Jeff was the one who did it, but Michael and Jeff planned it and Michael benefited. Well, then of course they would give one of them, whoever cracked first, use immunity to testify against the other so that they could get whichever one cracked first would get the better, sweeter deal. That's how use immunity works. But because I don't know why Jeff got use immunity. He didn't have any connection to Michael. He had nothing to offer up. He had no evidence to give. It just seems kind of strange that Jeff would get use immunity. It's a little weird. Also, I want to make sure you all understand that the prosecutor here, Ryan Elsey, no longer works for the prosecution. He is now working for the DOJ. Another strange, odd coincidence. This case is so full of different layers of the onion that you just have to keep peeling it back until you try to find out and make sense of it all. I just can't find and make sense of any of this situation or how Michael got involved other than his cell phone was pinging in the area throughout the night, and the timeline that they're trying to squeeze in does not match. Okay. I really don't understand where they're getting the timeline. So I'm throwing out the prosecution timeline. I don't understand how they can say that Michael Jackson Milanos, did this in 0 seconds of time, because basically the prosecution is saying that Samantha became no longer with us at 4:20 a.m. because they're going off an ADT alarm time, because the medical examiner, and we're going to get to that testimony at some point, never put down a estimated time of demise, which makes no sense. Literally, that's a medical examiner's job. A estimated time, manner, and type, way, means. Estimated time, manner, and means. How did this person, via pokey pokey or pew pew, or how did this person, natural causes, like what? But that's not what happened here in this situation. So we are going to look at Jeffrey Herbstman. This is going to be the prosecution, and we're going to see, and I'm going to be stopping, by the way, in the middle of this a lot of times, just so we can catch some nuances and some things that were possible misses or wins for, this is going to be the prosecution side first. So let's hear how the prosecution goes about asking Jeffrey Herbstman questions. And I want you to notice his demeanor is very mousy.
SGMAN. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, did you know somebody by the name of Samantha Wool?
Yes,
And how long had you known Ms. Wool?
for years.
Can you approximate the number of years that you knew of her?
At least 5, maybe perhaps longer than that. We met through the synagogue. A long time ago. Yeah.
Okay. And was this the downtown synagogue in Detroit?
That's correct.
And at some point, did your relationship with Miss Wool become romantic?
Yes.
And approximately when did that happen?
In August of 2022, we started a romantic relationship.
Okay. And how long did your romantic relationship with Miss Wool last?
Until July of 2023.
Okay. And during the time that the two of you were together, did you live together or live separately?
We lived separately.
And what precipitated the ending of your relationship in July of 2023?
We had difficulty communicating. I'm not particularly good at sharing my feelings, and it caused a stress between us. And we really wanted to make things work, but I didn't know how.
And when the two of you broke up, who initiated the breakup?
Samantha initiated the breakup.
Okay. And after the two of you broke up, was there ever any effort to rekindle things or get back together?
Yes, several times.
And did you ever end up getting back together and getting back into a relationship with Samantha?
Yes.
And when did that happen?
Initially the breakup was just a conversation where she came to me and said that she wanted to end things. We had a long conversation and got back together that day. Subsequently, it lasted for a few hours until I came and brought flowers and apologized and trying to figure things out. And then the third time, she wrote me a text message, and I said that I understood, and that was the third time that we broke up.
Okay. And the sort of 3 times that you broke up, what was the sort of time frame of all 3 of these sort of instances?
That was over June and July.
Okay. And after the final time, in July, was there any sort of effort or discussion at that point about possibly getting back together?
Yes, in late July, Sam came to me wanting to get back together. I told her I had to think about it. We met for coffee, and I said that I really I cared deeply for her, but I wasn't sure how to give her what she wanted in the relationship, and so I really needed to figure that out before we could continue the relationship. And so I said that it's not going to work.
And after that point in July, did the 2 of you ever sort of rekindle things at all afterward?
No.
Okay. Now, this breakup, was this like an acrimonious breakup, would you say?
No, it was we talked about things. It was very what's the opposite of acrimonious? It was we talked over things and agreed that things weren't working very well, that our communication wasn't great, and we just decided that things weren't working out.
After this happened, when was the last time you directly spoke with Sam in person?
The last time was at there was a holiday called Simchat Torah on October 7th, and we exchanged hellos at that holiday, but that's the last time that we saw each other.
Okay, and where was that? Was this
That was at the downtown synagogue.
At the synagogue?
Yes.
Okay, and other than exchanging hellos, was there any sort of discussion or conversation?
No.
In between July, when the 2 of you broke up, and the holiday in October, was there sort of any direct in-person interaction between the 2 of you during that sort of interim time?
We saw each other several times at synagogue. I remember that I saw her at the grand reopening party that we had, the block party that we had on, I think it was August 25th, and she came over and gave me a hug. And we exchanged hellos at, I think we saw each other at services other than that, but that was our, we didn't really speak outside of those situations.
Okay, and during this time, after you broke up, were the 2 of you ever still in communication with each other over text or phone?
I believe that very, very minimally. I texted her when I brought her her things back to her apartment, and I texted her. She brought over a book and cupcakes for my birthday.
And when was that?
That was August 12th.
Okay.
And so I thanked her for that.
And when was the very last time that you saw Samantha alive?
That would have been on October 7th at the synagogue Torah service.
Okay, at the synagogue?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, did you find out that something happened to Samantha?
Yes, I received an email from the synagogue.
And when did you receive that email?
On, I believe, October 22nd.
Okay, do you remember what time you received that email and found out?
Sometime in the afternoon.
Okay, and what did you do in response to getting that email?
The first thing I did was I looked at the news to try to understand what had happened. I was devastated. I wanted to know what went on. I called my parents, and then I reached out, or I can't remember if I reached out to some friends, but her friends reached out to me. But I spoke with Ruby Robinson, Zach Rosen, about what had happened.
And are those two individuals, are those friends of yours?
Yes.
Okay. And did those individuals know Samantha?
Yes.
Now, was there a funeral service held for Samantha?
Yes.
And when was that funeral service held?
That was it the 23rd, I think? I'm not, it was the following day.
Okay. Do you remember what day of the week it was?
It would have been the Sunday.
The Sunday, okay. And did you attend the funeral service?
Yes.
And after the funeral service, did you have an opportunity to speak with some police officers with the Detroit Police Department?
Yes, I did.
And where did you speak with those officers?
At the DPSH downtown.
Okay. And did those officers ask to take something called a swab for DNA from you?
Yes, they did.
And did you allow them to take that swab?
I not only allowed it, I reminded them they were actually going to let me go and forgot to swab me, and so I said, hey, don't you need to swab me for DNA?
Okay, and did you bring your cell phone with you to that meeting with the police officers?
Yes, I did.
And did those officers ask for permission to forensically download the contents of your cell phone?
Yes, they did.
And did you give them your phone so that they could do that?
I did.
And did those officers also ask for your permission to look in your car?
Yes.
And what kind of car were you driving at that time?
A Volkswagen EOS.
Okay. And during sort of all relevant time, is that the same car that you
Yes.
had? And did you allow the officers to look inside of your car?
Yes.
And search it? Okay. And did those officers ask you questions about your sort of whereabouts the night of Samantha's death?
Yes, they did.
And looking back at the night of October 20th of 2023, a Friday night, can you help us understand what were your activities that specific night?
So on that night, I went to the synagogue, and I stayed at the synagogue. We prayed. I stayed at the synagogue until around 8:00 p.m. and then I went directly home.
And what where is home for you without I guess giving us your specific address? What neighborhoods and what street do you live on?
Sure, Southwest Detroit. I live on Grand Boulevard.
Okay. And so you said you went from synagogue to home. Let me ask, is Friday night as a general matter, is that a significant night for in terms of like activities at the synagogue?
Yeah, so typically we have services on Friday nights and Saturday mornings.
Okay, and do you observe the sort of religious custom generally known as Shabbat in terms of activities that you might, take a rest from sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday?
Yes, I try not to do work or labor during that time.
Are you do you take your observance to the level that you don't use any electronic devices during that time?
No.
Okay, and so do you still use things like phone, computer during that time?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and so when you got home on the night of October 20th of 2021, what did you do after you got home?
After I got home, I would have let my dog out. I lay down on the couch. I listened to a podcast. I put on some records, and I went to bed around 10 o'clock.
And during the course of that night, did you leave your home at all?
No.
Do you remember waking up at all during the course of that night?
I believe that I woke up at some point during the night. I'm a light sleeper.
Okay, but did you leave your home? Did you go anywhere else other than
No.
at home? Do you remember? Do you remember what you did the next morning?
Yes. The next morning, I woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning. I went to Eastern Market, picked up some groceries and some food. I drove back home, and then I got my yoga equipment and posed. And so instead I just drove straight to yoga and did yoga at 10:30 to 11:30.
Okay. And Mr. Herbson, can I ask, do you have a history of suffering from any sort of mental health issues?
Yes, I had depression.
And how long have you been dealing with depression?
It's tough to say. It's been a long time. I'd say at least 10 years, if not longer.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, you can see why they broke up because he has serious issues with communicating. So his question to him was, do you remember what you did that night, right? What did he do when he got home, right? He said, I would have let the dog out. I would have let the dog out. So his answers are very like what he would have done if he had gone home that night. What I would have done is I would have let the dog out. Listen to a podcast. He's listing things like what he would have done if he had been home. He would have let the dog out, listened to a podcast, played some records, went to bed around 10 p.m. So is that what he did? And also, what podcast did he listen to? And that may be something the defense asks. I don't know, but I think it's important. What podcast did he listen to? And did the police check that? Is it something that they can check? I mean, I have heard of some people when they check their Fitbits and stuff like that, they can go back and trace like what you were hearing or listening to. I'm not really sure if this is something that can be checked. If it is, please someone leave in the comments to let me know if we can go back and check and see what kind of podcast you were listening to. What if you were listening to a YouTube video or something like that? Can you track that? Is that something? Because with technology today, clearly, if you can track where someone's been and track the towers they ping off of, can you track what podcast you were listening to? I mean, even back in the day before we had movie tickets that were on your phone, they tracked people movie tickets via the little paper trail. So, what podcast was he listening to? And did they go to the grocery store? Do they have receipts from the grocery store? Is there cameras at the grocery store? Do they show him shopping? I mean, I'm just curious. And I just, is there verification that no one ever says, by the way, if you watched this trial prior when it was actually going on, no one ever says how they cleared him other than his cell phone never left his house. They don't have any real evidence to show that he was at home other than his cell phone was never left the house. There's no activity on his cell phone whatsoever from that night. And that could mean that he left his phone at home or he's innocent. I don't know. But it does not say how they found him to be not a suspect, a real suspect. So let's continue.
And during the course of time that you've been dealing with depression, have you been treated by a physician when it comes to your depression?
Yes, I've been treated by a number of psychologists and psychiatrists.
And at the time of Samantha's death, were you treated by anybody at around that time?
Yes.
And at around that time, let me ask you this. In general, have you ever taken any type of prescription medication for depression?
Yes, I've taken a number of prescription medications for depression.
Okay, and back in October of 2023, were you on any prescriptions at that time?
October of 2023, yes, I was on Trintellix and Rexulti.
And can you say that first one again?
Trintellix?
Trintellix?
Yes.
And could you spell that for the record?
Trintellix.
And how long have you been taking that particular medicine?
I've been taking that for years.
And was that something that was prescribed to you?
Yes.
Okay. And at around the time of October of 2023, were there any sort of changes in your prescription or the amount of, was it Trintellix that you were taking?
Yes, so I wasn't really getting any relief from the Trintellix, so my psychiatrist recommended that I try a new medication.
Okay, and what was the new medication that you were taking or that recommended to take?
A medication called Auvelity.
Auvelity?
Auvelity, AUVELITY.
And so at around the period of October 21st of 2023, were you on one medication or both medications?
I believe I was only on the Trintellix at that time.
And is that something that you're able just to quit cold turkey, or did you have to kind of wean yourself off of that before changing medications?
No, there was a specific regimen that I was following to wean myself off of the Trintellix and to ramp up the Auvelity.
Okay, and then at what point in time did you start taking the Auvelity?
It would have been sometime either, I'm not certain of the date, but late October or early November.
Okay, and have you ever taken that medication before that particular time?
No.
When you started taking the medication, did you have any side effects from that medication?
Initially, no.
Okay. I want to ask you about a particular date, November 7th of 2023. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
And where were you on that specific day?
On that day, I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And what brought you to Kalamazoo?
typically I work remotely from home. However, because of what had been going on in my life, my my supervisor had suggested that maybe it would be better if I was around people for a few days, and so he invited me to go and work on site.
Okay, so I want to share with you guys a couple of things before we go any further. I want to share with you some information about Trintellix. Okay, so Trintellix, we're going to look at Trintellix. This is what Trintellix is. Okay, Trintellix is obviously it's an antidepressant. Okay, this is you should stop taking this you need to be taking or stop taking this within 14 days, okay? Before you start taking anything else. This is side effects of Trintellix, okay? Serotonin syndrome, a potentially life-threatening problem that can happen when you take Trintellix with certain other medications. Okay, you could have symptoms of agitation, seeing or hearing things that are not real, confusion, coma, fast heartbeat, changes in blood pressure, dizziness, sweating, flushing, high body temperature, shaking, stiff muscles or muscle twitching, loss of coordination, seizures, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. These are possible side effects. Increased risk of bleeding if you take Trintellix with aspirin or NSAIDs, warfarin, blood thinners, manic episodes. Manic episodes may happen in people with bipolar disorder. He has never mentioned that he has had bipolar disorder, okay? He just says he has depression. Sexual problems, low levels of salt, eye problems. Now, he said he had weaned off of the Trintellix, okay? Now, I want to tell you guys, you cannot mix Trintellix and Auvelity together. If you mix Trintellix and Auvelity, it says here, both Auvelity and Trintellix can increase, let me share this tab. Both Auvelity and Trintellix can increase serotonin levels, and taking them together can increase the risk of serotonin syndrome. Serotonin syndrome, which we just saw, can cause serious side effects like seizures, hallucinations, confusion, and more. So you don't want to mix these two together, and no doctor would tell you to mix them together. You wouldn't take Trintellix and Auvelity at the same time. The doctor would, first of all, not have you on Trintellix and have you weaning off of Trintellix and then put you on Auvelity. So Trintellix is one of those kind of drugs that you have to have in your system for a couple of weeks before you see effects take place. The reason why doctors put you on Auvelity is because it's supposed to be faster acting in your system. So if you take Lexapro, Prozac, Trintellix, something like that, those medications take longer to get into your system, and it takes you a couple of weeks before you see your chemicals in your brain to take effect to the medication and notice any changes in your serotonin levels in your brain, your mood change, or what have you. So you need to take those and get it in your system. Auvelity is supposed to be faster acting. You're supposed to see a difference in Auvelity within about a week. So Auvelity, the reason why they wanted to switch him to Auvelity, supposedly, in his words now, we're depending on what he's saying. We have no doctor information. We have nothing saying that he was switched to Auvelity. We're just taking his word, okay? This is a prescription oral medication used to treat adults with major depressive disorder. It is known as Auvelity, is safe It is not known if Auvelity is safe and effective for use in children. Auvelity is not approved for uses other than the treatment of major depressive disorder. So you should call your healthcare provider in an emergency if you have symptoms of suicidal thoughts or actions, new or worsening depression or anxiety, agitation or restlessness, trouble sleeping, acting aggressive or being angry or violent, an extreme increase in activity or talking, mania, panic attacks, new or worsening irritability, acting or dangerous impulses, other unusual changes in behavior or mood. Do not take Auvelity if you have had a seizure disorder, have had an eating disorder, if you have recently or suddenly stopped drinking alcohol or use of medications called benzodiazepines, barbiturates, or anti-seizure medicines, or have recently suddenly stopped taking them. So this is very curious because he has stopped taking supposedly Trintellix. So there are risks, right, when you take antidepressant medication. Manic episodes. Okay, here we go again with the manic episode. Manic episodes may happen in people with bipolar disorder who take Auvelity. Bipolar disorder. Not depression, bipolar. So he doesn't have bipolar. He's never said he has bipolar disorder. He has depression. So you aren't going to have these unusually grand ideas or racing thoughts or reckless behavior or greater increased energy or talking more or faster than unusual if you aren't bipolar. So this serotonin syndrome, a potentially life-threatening problem called serotonin syndrome. This is different. This could cause seizures. It could cause high blood pressure, high body temperature, hypothermia, loss of coordination, blood pressure changes, dizziness, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea. He didn't have any of those things. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying we're literally taking his word. He's saying he had a panic attack. He's saying he had side effects from medication. We don't know that. We are not hearing this out of a doctor's mouth. We're not hearing this out of a pharmacist's mouth. We're not hearing this out of one of these drug manufacturers' mouth. We're hearing this out of Jeffrey Herbstman's mouth. Now, I've heard several of his doctor friends that have spoken out in news articles and have said, people are weaponizing his mental health and saying that he's lying and saying that his mental health is being used as a tool to say that he's trying to use this medication and his depression. But it's in black and white that these kind of attacks don't happen unless you have bipolar disorder and you're taking this medication and mixing it with another disorder. Jeffrey says he only has depression. And this maybe, I don't know, but until we have an actual doctor who gets on the stand and they did a blood test or something and found out how much Auvelity was in his system, we don't know. We have no idea. We don't know how much Trintellix was in his system. We don't know how much Auvelity was in his system. We don't know how many mushrooms were in his system, how much pot was in his system, because he had all of that. And I don't know if any of you, if you want to mention in the comments, I don't know if any of you have ever done shrooms or whatever, but they make you see things and hear things and do some crazy things. I don't know what shrooms are about nowadays, but if you do the bad just say no stuff, you're bound to end up seeing and doing some weird stuff. And especially if you're mixing them with some prescription medication that you don't know is going to do to your body. And he's going to talk about some other things that are being done to him that he's tried to have done to help with his depression. I think these medications, which I think he's medicated now on the stand, as he's talking, because he's very, very dry. And Samantha was very light, bubbly, outgoing. They were polar opposites of each other. So I'm just saying it's right there for you to look up. You can look up what Trintellix is. You can look up what Auvelity is. Anyone can look it up. So for anyone to see these articles that his doctor friends are coming out and saying, even Samantha's sister is a doctor. She's an OBGYN, pediatric OBGYN. So I'm not saying that she should know about this particular drug. And I can tell you this right now. I used to be a pharmacy technician. I will tell you, most doctors don't know jack about medication. They just know what these pharmaceutical reps are pushing when they come to their offices. Pharmacists know more about what interacts with what and what drugs are what than any doctor does. I can promise you that. Doctors literally push whatever pharmaceutical rep tells them to push and whatever the kickbacks they're going to get. Pharmacists know more. And a pharmacist could tell you better than a doctor can. So I wouldn't put too much stock in what a doctor says about these medications. So, but that's what it says on the sites, period.
At the Kalamazoo office.
And where did you work at that particular time? What was the employer?
A company called Stryker.
And what did you do for Stryker at that time?
So I was a data scientist. So I was working with data that would come off of hospital beds to try and prevent conditions like bed sores, to prevent falls from occurring in hospital conditions.
Okay. And where were you staying on November 7th when you were at Kalamazoo?
I was staying at a hotel, the Four Points Sheraton.
And when you were at the Sheraton on the night of November 7th, can you explain to the jury what happened that night?
Sure. So I finished work that day. I checked into the hotel. So at that point, that was the second day that I was instructed to double the dosage of Auvelity. So I increased from 1 pill to 2 pills. I went out to dinner, and then I came back to the hotel. I sat in my car. I smoked 4 hits off of a vape pen.
And when you say you smoked, what substance were you smoking?
Cannabis.
So would that be marijuana?
Yes.
Okay. And so after you smoked the cannabis, did something happen at that point?
No, not initially. I felt fine. I went inside. I bought a sparkling water and went to my hotel room and began listening to a podcast. I began to feel abnormal while listening to the podcast. My thoughts began racing. They soon became what I would describe as uncontrollable, that I couldn't stop worrying about things. Initially it was work related. I couldn't stop worrying about that I had brought the wrong clothes to work, that I wasn't going to make a good impression. I was worrying about having to meet with the director of the program, and then my thoughts began to focus around Sam's death, and
what sort of direction did your thoughts go in at that point with regard to Sam's death?
I began to believe that I was that I was responsible for her death, that I had somehow killed her and didn't remember doing it. And I couldn't shake that feeling, and it was disturbing to the extreme. I began to text. I texted a few friends. I texted an ER doctor friend about seeing a psychiatrist. I texted another friend with whom I had spoken about psychiatry treatment. I texted my psychologist saying that I was freaking out, and I came to the conclusion that I was having a panic attack and needed to seek medical treatment.
And once you reached that conclusion, did you call the police? Did you call 911?
So actually, I took all of my stuff and recognized that that I didn't want my things in the hotel, and so I took all my stuff, put it in the car, went out to the car, and I called 911.
Okay, and after you called 911, did you have some interaction with police?
Yes.
Now, the particular types of thoughts and sensations that you were having during this episode, had anything like that ever happened to you before in terms of that type of episode?
No.
And do you have has anything like that happened since?
No.
The particular drug that you were on at that time, and again, remind me what the name of that was.
Auvelity.
Auvelity. Have you continued taking that drug since this episode happened?
No.
When did you stop taking Auvelity?
Immediately.
And have you had any issues like this since then?
No.
Before this happened on November 7th, did you ever feel like you were responsible for Samantha's death in
No.
any way? Are you responsible for Samantha's death in any way?
No.
Do you have any periods of blackouts or unaccounted for time in any way?
No.
Okay. And when you spoke with the police, did you say some things about feeling responsible for Samantha's death?
Yes.
You understand that today that you're testifying under something called use immunity, is that correct?
That's correct.
And is your understanding that that means that for this time that you're sitting in the witness chair, that anything you say can't be used against you in a subsequent criminal proceeding?
Yes.
And you understand that to be entitled to use immunity, that you have to be truthful in your testimony?
Yes.
Have you been truthful in your testimony today?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to review a recording of the 911 call that you made on November 7th?
Yes.
And when you reviewed that recording, did that recording appear to be a fair and accurate depiction or reflection of the actual call that you made back on November 7th in Kalamazoo?
Yes.
And I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 27. Is it your understanding that that recording is on this disc?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit proposed exhibit 27.
No objection.
Exhibit 27 will be admitted and made public. Is it more than 15 minutes long?
No, Your Honor, the call is approximately 7 minutes, and so perhaps we could maybe break after that. The next portion would be the body worn camera video of what he said to the police, and that's going to be a little bit longer.
Okay,
That
that
makes
might be a
sense.
good, unless you have questions for him about that call, but.
And again, just for the record, publishing exhibit 27.
What's the location of your emergency? One Sheridan Kalamazoo reported their own religion. The Four Points Hotel on Eastwood? Yeah. Okay. Is it a room number you're talking about? No, I'm in the parking lot.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'm having a full panic attack. I think I need to see a psychiatrist.
Okay, how old are you, sir?
I'm 21.
Okay. Do you want me to send the ambulance up to you?
Yes, please. I can't drive myself.
You can't what?
I can't drive right now.
Okay, that's all right. Is your phone number 847?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to transfer to like ambulance, okay? Yeah, I'm on the way right now, so they're going to have some questions to ask you. It will slow them down. But this is Norman, transferring 3600 East Court. 3600 East Court. Yes. Yeah, phone number?
I'm in the parking lot.
All right, tell me exactly what happened.
I'm having a panic attack. I think I'm maybe in danger of others.
Okay. Just a moment. Sir, listen to me. I have paramedics on the way, but I'm just going to ask you a couple other questions. How old are you?
21.
Okay. And are you there alone? Okay. You're okay. I got help coming for you, okay? And listen, we're on the way to help you. Is your breathing normal for you? Still on the line? Yeah, we are. We can take it from here if you'd like to. I'll set up to it. Put it in the middle. Maybe a minute from then. Okay. Listen, we have this coming. Are you by your vehicle? Okay, what kind of car are you in? Okay, can you turn the four-way hazards on for us? Okay, good. Try to slow your breathing down. Try breathing into your nose and out through your mouth. It's slow and easy. Hold it in for a second and release it. Breathe into your nose, hold it, now blow it out. In through your nose and then blow it out. Alright. And then are you bleeding? Are you bleeding or vomiting blood? Okay, do you have any pain? Okay, listen to me. Try breathing in through your nose, then blow it out. Blow in through your nose, and blow it out. Nice and easy. Do you have any pain? Okay, good. Just try to slow breathing down, okay? Have you tested positive for COVID in the last 14 days? No. Okay, good. Slow and easy breaths. Remember, in through your nose, blow it out through your mouth. Put it in through your nose, and then blow it out through your mouth. Okay. Stay on the line with me until the officers get there. Let me know when they find you, okay? They're coming to help you along with us. Okay. Sir? Sir, can you come back to the phone? Hello? Slow your breathing down. This is me. Is your phone number 847?
So we got an officer that's looking for you. Are you able to put your hazards on so we can find you?
I don't think you can hear us anymore. Can you put it down and then put us on speaker?
Okay. I've got one needed emergency. If you want to connect again.
Okay, I will. Thanks. Bye.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? Yeah. Are you able to put your hazards on? My officer can. My hazards are. My hazards are on. Okay. Do you see a police car in the area? Yeah, they just pulled up. Perfect. They're there to speak with you, okay? I'm gonna let you up so they can talk with you, okay? You can take my hands. You can take my hands. They're not there to hurt you or anything, okay? You're not in trouble. I know I'm in trouble. No, you're not in trouble, okay? The officer's there to help you, okay? He's not a good guy.
Stopping the recording that's been there is Exhibit 27. Sir, when you made that call, where were you situated?
I was in my car
And where was your car situated?
in the parking lot of the Four Points Charity.
And are you able to recall what was going through your head at the time that you made that call?
Sheer panic. I couldn't catch my breath. My heart was racing. I was terrified.
Okay. And after you found out about Samantha's death, can you say what, if any, impact her death had on your mental health?
It was not good. I was devastated. There were days that I couldn't get out of bed. I wasn't sleeping well. I would also sleep in the afternoons. My sleeping schedule was all off. I took it very hard.
And when you spoke with the police back on that Sunday, right after the death, what was your frame of mind like at that time?
I just wanted to be as helpful as possible.
Was that an easy position to be in, to be questioned by the police right after your ex-girlfriend had been murdered?
It wasn't easy, but I didn't have anything to hide, so I wasn't worried.
And is this an easy position for you to be in, sitting here today testifying about this call and about the video that we're going to see tomorrow?
No, this was a very difficult time.
And Your Honor, with that, I guess I'll.
Good point to break.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll break for the day and we'll.
Okay, so that was the first part of Jeffrey Herbstman's testimony. And as you could hear from the 911 call, which was very incoherent, he was doing a lot of heavy breathing. It really did sound like he was having a severe panic attack. He was hyperventilating. You can see him on the stand. He's very withdrawn. He could barely look up. He was doing a lot of looking down. He was very curled into himself. I honestly can't tell if his 911 call is a legit panic attack or if he possibly, this is guilt, or Samantha literally could have appeared before him and it freaked him out. I don't know. I don't know if Jeff did feel some type of responsibility because they weren't together anymore. I don't know. I just know, or I feel in my gut, that Michael Jackson Bolanos is not the one who actually did this. And I really feel for Samantha's family that I just feel like somewhere the ball has been dropped. And I am so sorry for her and her family and the entire community that somewhere, somehow, there is not going to be a resolution to this case if they don't go outside the box or get away from thinking that Michael Jackson Bolanos is the only singular person that did this, because they're going off of cell phone towers and ADT security alarm data instead of actual medical forensic evidence and actual time of demise. Because if they don't get off of this 420 ADT alarm system, they're never going to open their minds up to another option. An actual person who did this, an actual jealous ex, jealous boyfriend, jealous friend, jealous something. I mean, there has to be an actual motive. It can't just be, I mean, as I stated in my last video, there are things that were literally, if this was a crime of opportunity, if they're trying to say that it's because she left her front door open, which I do not believe her door was just wide open in the middle of the night. And if it was, you really couldn't tell that her door was wide open because she had a metal glass door that opened up to the front door that was closed. You can't tell those doors are open at night. So if you're just a burglar walking by, why would you go in to the townhouse, not take a thing, not ride off with that expensive bicycle, not take her car keys, not take her car, not take her wallet, not take her purse, not take her computer, her laptop was sitting on her sofa, not take anything? You're just gonna, get rid of her? That makes zero sense. There is a motive somewhere in this. And it's not just because, oh, I think I'm just going to, for the first time in my entire life, I'm going to take somebody's, away. So there has to be something. And it's got to be, I mean, there's just got to be, there's a motive. And every time somebody is taken off the earth, it is by someone else. It is money, lust, jealousy. There's a reason. It doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying there's motive to it. There's a reason that person had to do it. Not saying it makes sense. Now, Jeff seems, honestly, that he seems like he's having a legit panic attack, and he could be. It could be because of this medication. It could be, but we're literally just taking Jeff's word. We don't have a pharmacist. We don't have a doctor. We don't have anything else to go off of other than this 911 call, the body cam footage, and Jeff. Even the police don't really verify any information as this trial goes on. They do not confirm anything other than we cleared him. They don't say how, just that his phone never left his house. They don't really get into any detail on how in the world Jeff was cleared, along with all the other suspects were cleared. So we'll get into this more as this trial, as we go back through the trial and back through the witnesses more. and go through their testimony and go through what questions were asked and what questions were not asked. And see how the prosecution cherry picked and see how the defense, where they missed the mark on a lot of things as we go back through into the coulda, woulda, shouldas, right? And how they came across Michael Jackson Bolanos, and how this happens in so many cases where you see the police and the prosecution come up with a suspect that you're like, where did they get this person? And it's usually because, oh, hey, they have a criminal background. Oh, they were in the area. Oh, it just happens to match up. Let's wrap this up in a bow and put this person into the situation. So I think we're missing something. I think if it's not Jeff, I'm keeping an open mind to it not being Jeff, but it just seems kind of strange that he confessed. And he seems the only logical other person possibly that could be a suspect. But there are other people out there. I think I just feel really badly for Samantha. I would like to see her get justice. I would love to see her family get justice. I just think it's very sad. And I wish that people would be more open-minded to getting her real justice. And if it's Michael, obviously, I just want to see some more concrete proof. But I would like to see this case be solved. That's why we're going back through and combing through all of this evidence. So, and all of these witness testimonies and the prosecution and defense. So I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for sitting back through this trial with me and watching this channel, subscribing, liking. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. That helps the algorithm so much. And I greatly appreciate you all. And I will see you all in the next video. 감사합니다.